You are listening to Lovesick, the podcast, where we dive into health, wellness, and relationships and their impact on the world. Come be a part of the discussion and join our community by following us on YouTube, Instagram, and listening wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome back to our official Lovesick podcast. And to my left is
Jada.
Not paying attention or knowing left and right. Sorry.
I'm Dorothea, and to my right,
The troublemaker, Michael Fishman.
And we want to say thank you for coming to our show today. We have a great show. We have one of the elite, dapper Silver Squad member, Mr. Titus Unlimited, with us today, who is also a health guru. And he's been featured in BET, Muscle and Fitness, ESPN, and I'm sure the list goes on and on. But thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, one of the things that attracted me to, follow you is because, one, I have an inflammatory illness, pulmonary sarcoidosis, and that's an inflammatory illness that, the cell, not the cells, but granulomas, they tend to be inflamed and they're non-cancerous, but it can affect any major organ of your body. For me, it was my lungs. So what attracted me to you is when I saw you making these smoothies and, the things that you were putting in your smoothies, and a lot of your recipes are plant-based, especially some of the meals that you fix as well. So because I have an illness, and mainly everyone that watch the show, they have a rare or chronic illness. And so therefore it was very important to have someone like you to be on the show.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of times, there are a lot of practical reasons why people are having these issues, especially nowadays. A lot of the illness that people have were somewhat unheard of even 25 years ago. And the thing is, no one's asking why, And so most people are always looking for something to take. And when I talk to people, I always say, before we start to look at something to take, let's do addition by subtraction. What is it that we need to remove that's causing your issue? Because a lot of times that's the problem. The problem is you have something lurking in your lifestyle or your diet that's causing that problem that did not even exist 30 years ago, that was rare if it existed at all. And now you're trying to constantly take something when the whole point is you probably need to remove something.
Wow, that definitely sounds true. And the other situation is with us, most of the viewers, they have an autoimmune disease, and we try to help them manage their lifestyle with having expertise, as experts on it, such as yourself, to help give them some type of hope or other options that they can try. We're not claiming to be doctors or anything like that, but a lot of people are starting to go with plant-based, or you have to watch what you put in your body, especially if you have an inflammatory illness. And even if you don't, you want to be cautious about how you're taking care of your body inside and outside.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times I hear there's a lot of overemphasis on this plant-based thing. And we have to be very mindful of that, because although plant-based sounds good,
Mm-hmm.
and in a lot of cases it can be helpful, but then at the same time, sometimes it can be detrimental because of lack of nutrients. And so, yes, some of the recipes and some of the things that are plant-based can be helpful. But we have to also, like I said, be mindful of nutritional deficiencies. When it comes down to your diseases that we suffer from, most of your diseases have a root cause in three primary things: chronic inflammation, excess exposure to toxins, and nutritional deficiencies. Okay. And sometimes people can be doing everything that they think is right, and they can still have all three of those issues. And they're pretty easy to solve and or fix if you know what you're talking about and you know what you're doing.
Well, I think that's a good point because, at some point we all had to start some sort of journey, correct? I'm sure
Right.
you
Right.
you have a great story. I know you do. For me personally, I started going. I'm not fully plant based. I do eat seafood here and there, but I have done some of my sort of research. But it was mostly like how my body reacted to certain things that I ate, because certain foods that I could eat when I was 20 something, or I felt like I could eat that, you know, 30. Some of that stuff started creeping up, and now that I'm in my 40s. Some of those foods don't work the same way that they used to work in my body. And I know, my body's changing too.
Right.
But I also had to kind of do that process of elimination, right? Where it was like, this isn't, this isn't making my stomach great anymore. So I'm going to take this out and try to figure out what can go in that place that still has that nutritional value. So my question to you is, we have all kind of started some sort of journey somewhere, and I wanted to know how yours came about.
My journey came about after the death of my mother from cancer um, in 2001, when I started to actually analyze food. Um, I went and did all the nutrition certifications, all those different things, and the more I learned, the more I found out how much misinformation is out there and how little people in quote unquote healthcare actually knew. Um, so even when you start talking about developing allergies and or problems with food later on in life, you know, um, basic story with me, a lot of people don't know that I grew up in West Africa. Grew up in West Africa. I was allergic
Oh,
to nothing. I could eat everything. I
okay.
moved to the US, and after eating the standard American diet for a couple of years, all of a sudden I developed this allergic reaction to avocados. As soon as I would eat them, 1 minute later, I would throw up
Wow.
and didn't know why. Went to the doctor. The doctor said, "Oh, these allergic reactions happen as we get older. Sometimes we develop these allergic reactions later on in life." And I took it for what it was worth.
Hmm.
But as I started to educate myself about food, I started to realize that there were additives and preservatives that are in our food that actually elicit allergic reactions.
Mm.
And so after cleansing my body and eating a clean diet with no processed food after a couple of years, a friend of mine asked me and said, "Hey, why don't you try the avocado again and see what happens?" And I reluctantly tried it. And lo and behold, I'm not allergic to avocados anymore.
Wow.
Can,
That's
can you
interesting.
take us through, for people who don't have expertise, when you talk about like a clean, unprocessed diet? What does that
Mhm.
look like? What's the best way to source that? Where can people turn for resources?
Very easy. One of the things that people love about my content is I keep things simple. So here's a simple rule. If the food didn't exist in its current form in 1900, don't eat it.
Mm.
Wow, that is
Wow.
a
That
So
is
what
simple. Yeah. Yes.
so what did exist? Grass-fed beef, pasture-raised eggs, organic fruits and vegetables. All these things existed. And if you can find it in the exact same quality and form, then you eat it. If not, don't eat it.
interesting. That's why a lot of
That
people
is.
are going toward like their own
Yes.
gardening and kind of
Hmm.
stuff like that, because like
Well,
they
you
can.
don't have to do your own gardening because once
Right.
again, you have farmers markets and you have
Sure.
That's true.
people who sell foods
Right.
that are animals that are raised properly, foods that are grown properly without pesticides. You just have to do your homework, and the world has gotten as big as the world is. It's gotten so much smaller because nowadays you can, it doesn't. When people say, "Oh, I live in a food desert," that doesn't matter,
Mm.
okay? Because you can order organic fruit, right? Even cheap organic fruit from certain places like, Imperfect Produce, if you want to go a cheaper route or something like that, and it'll be dropped at your doorstep tomorrow.
Mm.
So the same phone that people use to look for designer clothes and Jordans, you can look for better food.
Yeah. That's a good
All
idea.
right, now I want to jump in. I want to go down this
Get in
path
there.
because I'm all for this, Titus. You're speaking my language, so I've been trying to lay low. Okay, give us some things that you wish people knew right away, and some of the aha moments for you as you started studying food. And then I really want to know, like, what are the things you wish people would just do today?
Um, well, when I realized that Here's a big aha. All your hospitals are for-profit hospitals. They're run by for-profit organizations.
Mhm.
All right. And a hospital is only profitable if you remain sick. So the general gist of what a hospital or healthcare system is trying to do is not to cure you, is to manage your disease. If you look at all pharmaceutical agencies, they do not make pharmaceuticals to cure you. They make pharmaceuticals to manage your disease and manage the symptoms of your disease to keep
Mhm.
paying.
Wow. Yes.
Okay. So once I
Yeah.
realized that, then I said, okay, wait a minute now. Curing me is never the goal here, because just a customer cured is a customer lost. Okay. So and me being a lot of people don't you guys don't know this. I used to be a financial advisor, stockbroker. And there's one word called fiduciary duty.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
A corporation has a fiduciary duty to its shareholders to maximize profits. How many times have we seen the Pfizer's, the Johnson and Johnsons, and all these people get caught up in these scandals where they lied about research and put products out there that they sold and they have to pay a penalty? But the penalty they pay is a fraction of what the profits were.
Wow.
Well, in the eye of the shareholder, or in the eye of the people who run that company, those people did a good job. Why? Because they did everything they could do to maximize the profit of the corporations, even if they did some harm to some of their customers. So once I realized that the goal was not my health, the goal was my pain, then I had to actually start to look into things that I could do. So that was my aha.
Mhm.
That was a major
That's
aha.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Aha
and there's a
moment.
lot of people listening going, okay, I'm with you, Titus. So I think holistically, right? We got away from naturally sourced food and products, and we can talk about kind of the system of both medicine and pharmaceuticals. There are people who wouldn't be alive without them. There's a lot of people who are suffering because of them, and there's a lot of byproducts and kind of side effects that go along with it.
Mhm.
When it comes to food, right? Like, what's your passion, and what are the things that you're like, I wish people knew how good this is or how much this adds to your life?
You know, I don't have a particular thing that I stress on. It's general. Because what I want people to do is I want people to become more informed. So what I wish people actually knew is I wish people actually knew the history of our healthcare system.
Mm.
And that's why I go all the way back to John D. Rockefeller, and I go back to the Flexner Report, and I go back to when petrochemicals and pharmaceuticals were introduced, when natural path medical schools were run out of business and people were imprisoned that were trying to promote that. And then when you understand the beginning, when you start to fast forward, then you see why we've come where we come today. If you look at even our education system, I would say the two most important things in life that you need in life in the United States or basically anywhere in the world is to be informed about your food and your money. But those are the two things that most people will graduate with advanced degrees and have no idea about what is healthy food, and or how can you actually formulate your finances to where you can actually be able to retire this dream that they sell you. How is it that I do that? They don't teach you that. Why is that?
Mm.
Because the goal is not for you to win. The goal is for you to just to continue to play. That's it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And how does I know you're a fitness coach as well, right? A fitness uh is it are you a fitness consultant or fitness coach?
So I do strength and conditioning. I do fitness. I well versed in all those things, but I like to wrap it all in one blanket and call it wellness, because
Okay.
even mental health is all part of this.
Yes. Okay. So I get it. With your clients, how do you help them to live a better lifestyle? I'm sure that when you get different people from all walks of life, they come in and they have, their different, I guess what you would call it, maybe different aspects of how they should live their life or the right things to eat or the right things of, how to do fitness. How do you prepare your clients for a journey from that point on when they see you to live a healthier lifestyle?
Well, one of the things I do with people, first off, is when people come to me, I first find out how did we get here. So when somebody comes to me and they're overweight, I don't first start saying, well, you need to eat this, you need to stop doing this. Well, how did we get here?
Mm-hmm.
Because understanding the habits and the mindset that got us here will go a long way into now saying, okay, here's how we can move forward. But because most people don't just get overweight by themselves, they don't just, you have to understand what happened. Okay. And it's usually not as easy as work out and eat this and don't eat that. Okay. And so when people come to me, it's more of of understanding who they are and where they're from, and then we can devise a plan as to move forward, if you will.
You brought up something interesting a little bit earlier about the food deserts, because I I think because we're providing the education, and I think it's great because I think because of fast food and stuff is very convenient and it's right there. Sometimes it's and less. It's actually it's not as much as less expensive anymore than it used to be. I remember going to McDonald's a long time ago and things were like $4. Now you could get a meal for like 12 or 13, but you can still go get something healthier like a salad or something for the same price. So as far as like, if there's any advice, I know you labeled a couple things, but for those who are just like, I just go to McDonald's. It's much easier. No disrespect to McDonald's. I mean, it's good. But for stuff like that, at convenience and price, and in some neighborhoods, those fast food places are right there. So as far as like any type of recommendation, any advice on where we could find stuff versus always having to go to these spots, let us know.
So this goes back to one of the things when you said keep it simple,
Right.
right? Your being healthy, very rarely is it going to be convenient. The same way with your saving for retirement, very rarely is it going to be convenient, right? And so, and that's the trap. The trap is that they make the unhealthy food convenient. They even subsidize the unhealthy food. They put it right there. The same way they put the drugs right there. They put the liquor store right there.
Right.
Now the question is, you're going to eat tomorrow. You're going to eat every day going to Sunday. Why is it that you're always looking for something convenient? You can plan for it. And so what I do is I show people how to plan and eat healthy on a budget.
Now that's
So for
really
instance,
good.
if you had $150 and that's all you had to feed your family with per week, right? Well, okay. Well, what does that look like? Well, depending on the size of your family, I can take you to a butcher's shop or the grocery store, and let's buy a 5-pound chuck roast. Okay, that 5-pound chuck roast, you take it and you put it in the crock pot with some onions, some garlic, and some rosemary and some basic seasonings. And 8 hours later, you have 5 pounds of good quality meat that can be eaten with rice,
Right.
potatoes. It can be put on a taco. It can be whatever. But you have 5 pounds of meat. And let's say if we're eating half a pound of meat a day, that's 10 servings for one person.
Mm.
And that 5 pounds will probably cost you around about $35 to $40. Okay. And that's quality food. When you put that together with a couple of sweet potatoes and maybe some wild rice or something like that, the sweet potatoes and wild rice is probably going to cost you another $10. Now you fed 10 meals for $50. That's $5 a meal. Quality food. How does that compare with the McDonald's? It's cheaper and it's healthier. The only thing wasn't as convenient.
That's true.
But you can also make it convenient by taking the hour it might take to prep it and cook it, and then you have food for the whole week. You can do the same thing with salmon. You can do the same thing with chicken. And when you go and buy a whole piece of salmon for $30, you can get 7 meals out of that. Okay. Well, what's 7 divided by 35? That's around about $5 a meal.
Right.
Okay. It's not convenient, right? Because you have to go and get it or you have to have it delivered. But guess what? It's better.
Right.
Okay. You can go to Costco. You can get a pack of organic chicken drumsticks. I think 24 or so. It'll range anywhere from 20 to 25 of them that's going to be in a pack for $10. Okay, for $10.
Right.
And you can get a good meal with three of them because three of them is going to be about 75 grams of good quality protein. So once again, 7 meals, and that's chicken now. So chicken's cheaper. 7 meals out of $10.
Wow.
All you have to do is season it up and either put it in the oven or put it in the air fryer. So we keep looking for what's convenient when our health is never preserving our health. Real health care is the preservation of health. And that preservation of health is never going to be convenient. We can make it easier, but it can only be easier if we plan for it.
That's true. And I was just thinking something that just kind of flashed back. Do you think a lot of your clients, like say if they're obese and it may have stemmed from family, like, their family, and then they grew up and they didn't really know any better because this is how they were raised. And now they have their own family, and some of those habits are, kind of transferred over to their family. Just like for myself, I'm in California now, but I grew up in Baltimore. So I'm a Be More girl. I grew up there. This is my daughter. And, Jada's my daughter. And some of the things that I grew up with in reference to food, I would never eat right now. Like, I would never eat it. And not knowing that as a kid growing up, and your family, you're eating all these different things because of prices, and they're trying to have the family eat certain things because they're trying to save money. Some of the things that I ate today, when I think about it, I gag.
Well, all the education wasn't there either.
Exactly.
So I mean, that's a big thing too. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I mean, the thing with food is, food is, in a lot of ways, people have an emotional connection to food. They grow up eating certain things that their favorite grandparent gave them and all these different things like that. So diseases don't run in families. The habits that produce diseases run in family. You grow up eating certain things. You develop a certain taste for certain things, and certain things remind you of things and people. Okay?
Yeah.
So a lot of times what we have to do is we have to unlearn the things that we do. And that's why, and then reprogram ourselves. So that's why when you see somebody who's overweight, it's usually a bigger story behind that.
right.
If a child grows up with one parent that's overweight, there's a 50% chance that child will be overweight. If a child grows up with two parents that are overweight, there's an 80% chance that child will be overweight. And a child that grows up overweight or obese, there's a 65% chance that child will never achieve a normal weight. Never.
That's some high
Why?
stats.
Because the easiest and most convenient drug is food. So imagine a child growing up as an alcoholic.
Right.
I mean, we don't like to think about food as a drug, but imagine if we actually considered food what it was. It can be a drug. So
Yeah.
imagine you grow up being an alcoholic or a heroin addict. You know how hard it's going to be to break that habit, especially if that habit was introduced to you by your grandmother, by your mother, was
Right.
reinforced every time you went somewhere, they were offering you that drug.
Yeah.
No, I do.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot more to it. And that's why sometimes the reprogramming or the unlearning is the biggest part. When you teach people, well, this food, this is what it's doing to you. This is what is produced. But then it's easy to do that. But then what do they replace it with? Okay. And that's why I always tell people when I work with people, I help people change their relationship with food, understand what this food is doing to you. And so when you think about it, and if you start to really think about it properly, you no longer want that because you understand what it has done to you. And then maybe you also understand what it did to your grandmother.
Right.
And then now you change, you don't look at it the same way anymore.
Right. Exactly.
What's also
Yeah.
interesting, diseases run in families because patterns run in families.
Yes.
And there's a big part of it is, when we take care of it, you mentioned your mom. And again, I
Right.
want to kind of give you condolences on that
Yes,
and that
definitely
experience, how that
condolences.
shifted you. And I didn't want to cut you off when you were saying it, but I just want to acknowledge it in that moment.
Thank
For
you.
for me, it's really interesting because I think we watch people that we love get sick. We watch the patterns that led them there, but rarely do we stop and look at them and question whether we're carrying them on.
Right.
And I think there's a big part of that I want, like, for everyone, we all should do it. So I'll start with me. Is like, I had to really analyze my connection to food, what my family eats versus what I eat, and what I was going to feed my children.
Right.
And I think one of the hard parts for a lot of people is it's the perception that this is going to be hard, or that cooking is hard, right? It takes time,
Right.
it takes preparation, but one of my favorite tools that I heard you mention is, I love some kind of slow cooker or crock pot where you just shove stuff in there,
Yes.
you leave it for the
It's a
day.
godsend, right?
Don't touch it.
I mean, to feed your kids or to feed a family, or if you want, like, we think of meal prepping and everybody starts getting freaked out and we start thinking about like counting beans and
Yeah.
like putting things in a million different containers or whatever. But meal prepping actually starts with, and put a piece of meat, put some stuff, put it in a crock pot, and then
Right.
break that thing up and heat it back up
Yeah.
over the course of the week and make some.
That's true.
I think kids eat better if it's convenient. We made McDonald's convenient, right? But in my house, like for my kids, fruits, nuts, all kinds of stuff, those things were convenient because they were available. And I grew up in a really interesting environment growing up in entertainment because candy and sugar was everywhere, right? Like, you go back to craft services and it is like, it is every bad thing you could ever want.
So colorful and good though.
Yeah.
It's like right there.
But see, as a kid, I had the opposite because also fruits and vegetables were always available.
Yeah.
And so I grew up not drinking soda. My preference of choice is fruits and vegetables as far as a snack goes, right? And it's so interesting because, it takes you 30 seconds to wash that thing or cut it up. But it's an investment in your life. And I keep hearing you say this, like, what are some of your other big time-saving hacks? Like, I heard you say the crock pot. What are the other things that you were like, this doesn't have to be painful?
Start cooking.
I cook food in bulk. So, like, take for instance, like I even mentioned, I buy, let's say, an entire pack of chicken drumsticks, 20 drumsticks. When I bring it in, I pop the pack open and I put it in a big Tupperware. I wash it and I season it all together. Now it's all seasoned. Now it's sitting. Now,
Right.
if I have the time, right, what is it going to take me? 45 minutes? It takes me about 45 minutes to cook 3 batches of it. But once I cook it, now I have 20 some odd drumsticks already cooked, seasoned how I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And all I have to do now is warm it up. Okay. Now, when I'm cooking the drumsticks, if I do it in the oven, I can also put 4 sweet potatoes in at the same time. So now I have chicken and sweet potato.
Right.
All right. So then all I have to do is if I wanted a vegetable, I keep it real simple. I go and I buy every week. I buy about 8 avocados, so I can eat 1 avocado every day. So now all I have to do while that chicken is warming up, right, is with the sweet potato is cut an avocado and peel it, and within a matter of minutes, right, I can kind of show you guys, well, this was breakfast because I had done a steak.
Ooh,
Okay.
yummy.
Good.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And
That
again,
is so good.
but like you said,
Oh
Tice,
my
this
God.
isn't like you spent hours making this.
Right.
You did prep it, so it was nice. I mean, it is photogenic. But I give you credit because presentation, high marks.
I'm flying down for breakfast.
Yeah, but I mean,
That was so good.
I used to do this. Like, I would put stuff in the oven and then
Right.
check the kids' homework, or like. Anybody who's seen my social media, people laugh and make fun of me or whatever because, like, you'll see that there's spurts. A lot of times that's in between me cooking or in between, like, that's my check the email time or that,
Right.
like, I'm like, okay, I got 25 minutes here while this thing cooks. I'm going to do the following things. I think if you break it up that way, it doesn't have to be quite so.
God bless an air fryer for me. Though.
Yeah, that works too.
So, for instance, we talked about the crock pot. We talked about the chuck roast, right?
Mhm.
This was another breakfast with 2 eggs and a chuck roast
Oh,
with avocado.
wow.
Nice.
Oh, my gosh.
The
Nice.
amount of time it took me to make that was the amount of time it took to basically fry 2 eggs into an omelet.
Oh, wow.
That's it.
Yeah.
Chuck roast was already done. So I always laugh with people. I said, by the time you order food, right, my food will be done and you'll be done eating.
Right.
Yep.
Well, I
and
take it you
But
don't go to
the-
restaurants too much.
no, I don't. I don't. I mean, I would say, honestly, throughout the course of a month, there are many a months where I will never eat out. Unless, but yeah, I know. Everything I make at home,
Right.
you know?
Because you know
Even
what
if
you're
I
putting in it.
Yeah, even if I wanted to eat something more, more rich or decadent, I make my own pancakes. I make it from scratch. I make my own French toast. I make my own waffles.
What do you put
And when
in?
you
What do
start to
you
look at
use for seasonings? Do you use like herbs and what do you use for
Yeah,
seasonings for all of your food?
I use organic seasonings,
Okay.
and then sometimes I make my own seasonings. Like the other day, I made this. Like, take for instance, I had this herb seasoning that I make, and the herb seasoning that I make, I take olive oil, um, garlic, onion, rosemary, basil, and parsley, and
Mm.
I put it all in the blender and I blend it, and it comes
Oh,
up to this
wow.
perfect herb thing. And then I can season stuff with it. And even when I do a steak, all I have to do is take a couple tablespoons and add some grass-fed butter to it. Now I have a garlic herb, thing to drizzle on my steak or what have you.
Right.
So you can make your own seasonings. You can make your own, marinades.
Mhm.
It's just the thing I tell people is when it comes down to eating is about a little bit of creativity. Okay. And once you get in the kitchen and you actually allow yourself to think about it, you start to come up like that same recipe. I switched it around and took out the parsley, took out the parsley, and I added cilantro, and then I threw in two chipotle peppers, and now I have a kind of like a chipotle season I can season chicken with.
Wow.
You know,
Oh my God.
Now, see,
but you learn
hungry
these
now.
things and you play around in the
Do you
kitchen.
see what you're
It's-
doing to
it's
us,
so funny,
Titus
though.
I wanna
Unlimited?
eat.
We're hungry.
well, you said something, and I want to highlight this because I rarely I eat out in little spurts, and I eat out with other people. I love to
Right.
eat at home, and actually, I love cooking with someone.
Right.
Like I think that's one of the best ways to share time. It's a great place to talk and have communication. But when you start eating, like everybody's mouth was watering as you're going through the seasonings and what you're making, right?
Right.
And what I found, particularly even with my kids, was the more I was cooking, the less they wanted to go anywhere else. It became more convenient to stay at home
Right.
because the food is better and you know what's in it and you know what you're taking in.
And you're saving some
Yeah.
money.
The funny thing
That's
about
true.
kids too is that if you want your kids to be healthy, when you're making the healthy food, bring them down and let them help you. Because it's
Yes.
amazing how much they love to eat the stuff that they made.
Yes.
Especially if it's the things that they like pancakes or waffles. They learn how to make some pancakes and waffles, buckle up, because you might be eating pancakes and waffles a whole lot more than you used to. Because once they figure out how easy it is,
Right.
right? It's really simple. And you save yourself a whole bunch of money, and you also help your family at the same time.
You know, my grandkids, they love to when you said pancakes, and I'm like, whoop. My grandson, he's famous for wanting pancakes or waffles, but they always like to, kind of help out. And you're right about them helping out, and they want to eat what they fixed because it's such a big deal for them. Like, look what I made. I made
Yeah.
some pancakes,
You taught them how to fix eggs.
I did. Like, they know how to fix things now because when they were little, they would actually go in the kitchen with me and I would introduce them to certain foods and I would say, okay, you want to help me make it? So that way you can taste it. And when I was watching my grandkids while my daughter was working, we would send little videos and they would tell her what we're making and say, we're making it for you. So when you come back home, you can eat the food that we made.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
they would say, and we made it with love, wouldn't
Yep.
they? Yeah.
And they love that.
Yes,
They
they
love
d-
that.
and to this day they still do. And now I have another granddaughter that also, because I have 3, about to have 4 now. But my other granddaughter, she loves to cook as well. And my daughter and my son-in-law, they take a lot of time with her preparing food so she can get into fixing her own foods when she gets up, to be older. But it's an experience. It's bonding when you
Yes.
bring, it's a
That's the
bonding.
bonding point.
Yeah, because that's the time you talk to them and you find out things, because now you're in a room, you're in a space, you're doing something that they love, and I'm doing something that I truly love. And now we're talking, because we don't get enough of that these days, of bonding with your kids or grandkids. And it's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, it's a very simple weekend activity that you can do with the kids, and the benefits that it pays are just so immense that you can't it's immeasurable, honestly. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
right.
And there's this thing for me. One, I don't think we ever count the real cost of going out to dinner, which really to me it's the time driving, it's the time
Yes.
waiting, it's the time where you're in a public space where you're not always as comfortable or having the conversations you could have. And we used to talk about culturally. I mean, we talked about healthcare, but I think holistically for life,
Mm-hmm.
the kitchen used to be the heart of a home, right? And
Yeah.
shared meals are where you reconnect. And some of those memories you talked about before with loved ones, it was because they shared those meals with you, and that is what you used to remember.
Yeah.
And going back to the part where you mentioned mental health, I think this is one thing that no one ever talks about when it comes to like cooking. Watch a child fall in love with cooking and watch the joy of making it with their own hands and how that impacts them. We talk about making things with love. There is an element of achievement that comes with it that you mentioned before. And I just want to reiterate because I think that's such a powerful message.
Mm-hmm.
Big time. Yeah. I can't agree with you more. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
remember one time I took my daughters fishing, and my youngest at the time, I was amazed how excited she was
Mm.
when she helped to clean the fish, and she actually wanted to eat it.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
The fruits of
see
her
it.
labor. She helped.
Because she caught the fish.
Right.
Yeah.
She helped.
Crazy story. When I took her fishing, she actually that day caught the biggest fish.
Wow.
She caught this 5-pound fish. It was
Oh,
huge,
wow.
and it was bigger than anybody else caught that day. But she was excited to actually be the one to prepare it.
Yeah.
But what a
know?
story.
I know. Of course she wanted to do that.
Well, and she's going to pass that on. I mean, I'm going to give you the example of my youngest daughter's in college now. She cooks all the time for her house. And so she has literally transitioned what her teammates and her roommates all eat
Yeah.
because they come over for food, right?
Right.
And she eats on a budget. I mean, this is something that we've talked about and set from 3,000 miles away. Some of those things have been passed on, but now she's passing them to other people. But as athletes, they've noticed a difference in eating well versus their teammates who don't eat well.
Sure.
And the amount of injuries, the amount of breakdown and energy, it will really transition your whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, when you actually just, especially these days, when you factor the cost, okay? When you factor the cost of cooking your own food, and then not only that, but then when you actually look at the quality that you're getting because you cooked your own food, it's not even close.
Right. That's
Yeah.
true.
Well, no one counts like $7 for a tank of gas in a lot of parts of the country, right? That's $7. That's your whole meal if you go back to what you estimated for the value of
Yeah.
the meal, right? So just
Yeah.
driving there.
Oh, you
Oh, you
go on.
talking?
No, I'm
You
saying
talking about
no,
the
like for gas,
per
right?
Got it,
Like
got
gas.
it.
Like
I got you.
here it was $7 for
I went over
a
my
gallon
head,
of
I'm
gas,
sorry.
right? Like I'm thinking. So we talk about it not being as convenient, but if you break it down and start looking at it all, it's actually way more convenient to make it at home, and you can
It
choose what you like because I don't
I
have
was
to ask anybody like I don't want this, I don't eat that.
Because I'm gonna tell you,
you
I've
got a
gone
rat
out
on
to eat
me.
with this guy many times, and it's more of like when you cook, you get the things in there that you want to get. Otherwise, we'll sit here in a restaurant being like, I don't want this, and can you take this out, and can you do this without this? But it makes sense. No, but it's
Don't Harry Met Sally me. I am not Sally, right? Like I eat everything. It's just I
know.
kind of particular, especially when you cook at home.
Yeah.
Titus, tell me
Well,
if you agree.
Yeah, I mean, but even when we go to restaurants, right? What materials are they using? Because they use the most inflammatory oils
Yep.
and the cheapest ingredient possible to make whatever it is. So when you go there, you're not getting organic flour. You're getting bleached, enriched flour.
Right.
You're not getting grass-fed beef. You're getting the lowest level that they can get away with to maximize their profits. You're not getting pasture-raised meats and chickens and eggs. You're getting the quality that they can get away with to maximize their profits. Okay? And so when you actually look at, like I said, just the quality alone, and then when you eat, people are sometimes just looking at the price, but like you said, the gas, the parking, the tip.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, let's not forget about the tip.
Well,
Yeah. which is
it's time.
Which is astronomical these days.
Look, I look
Yeah.
at time. Time is the big one for me. Driving there, finding parking,
Yeah.
sitting in wait. I mean, because I get it. I live in LA, so it might be light or other places, but the reality is, I gotta wait. Sometimes I don't know how long I'm gonna wait at a restaurant, especially if it's a place I really like.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the food is good, then chances are I'm waiting a while. I don't know what the service is like in the back. I don't know any of those other features. So like all of a sudden, I'm gonna go get a quick meal.
Not out here.
Going out is not necessarily a quick, and I can do 5 other things at home. Must sound like the biggest old homebody in the world, Titus, but it's the truth. It's like, I want to share time with my loved ones in my setting.
But to piggyback on that real quick, like some of my, I have a group of mom friends. We live in the area. Our kids are friends, etc. We started doing this thing where sometimes we used to be like, do you want to go out for lunch? Now someone is hosting at their house because it's like, why can't we just do this at home and we all just come together in one house and then here's food and yes, we saved money, but also look at the time that we were able to save and talk.
That's wellness.
And just like,
That's
Exactly.
wellness.
Yeah.
Right?
There
Like,
you go.
like we're not looking at wellness in a holistic way. We're looking at it like a almost like a spreadsheet and a dollar and cents thing, and then we're counting the wrong kind of categories and departments, right? So we're getting the wrong equation at the bottom. We're getting the wrong sum because I think we're adding it up wrong.
Yeah, quality of life increases. I mean, once again, do you want to go to the restaurant for the food? Because I can put the food at home, and the only difference is that I actually, like you said, can talk to you. We can have a real conversation that we may not have been able to have in a public setting.
Right.
So the benefits are too long to list, and it's actually
Yeah, and I love to learn what people like. I love to learn to cook something for you your way. Right? There's something about that connection too, because I think a big part of love is consideration and compassion for each other, right?
Right.
Now,
but I think also, getting back to what we were talking about initially, when you actually can control what's in your food, we look at, I talked about an autoimmune disease just last night. When we look at the levels of chemicals that are being put in our food, the levels of chemicals that people are ingesting on a daily basis, just by making your food at home, you cut out so much of that, right? You cut out a tremendous amount of that. When we look at all the inflammatory oils and all these different things that they're putting, there's the salad dressings with all the different things in it, and all, it just controlling what you put in your body. I think that's one of the biggest things. 40 years ago, what was it? 85% of meals 40 or 50 years ago were prepared at home. Okay.
Right.
Whereas today, I think right now that number is at probably 15.
It's amazing.
Right. Because of convenience and people just go out and just grab
the idea.
Yeah.
It's you have hit on a lot of ideas that I think people have kind of lost track of or not really thought out, right? Eating out has become the norm, and that's become kind of the staple of society, where eating together at home used to be the norm.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just watching this commercial today, and this is for me, it's not a plug for KFC, but think about it. KFC has a chicken bucket Tuesday or something where you can get like eight-piece bucket for $10 on a Tuesday.
Okay.
So they're basically trying to corner the market. So a lot of times now, when parents think about food, they think about feeding their kids as a nuisance or inconvenience. And here they come making it very convenient. Hey, all you need is $10, and you can
Right.
feed the whole family with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And
Hey, and if you
it's a
buy
shame.
two,
Yeah.
you know, and so they're thinking that they're saving time, but what are you doing? You're bringing home chemicals and all these things to your kids.
Yeah.
And I think if that awareness was spread about that and put in that frame, people would consider it different.
You have a point there because um, going back to my illness, I've had it now for 40 years of living with that. And when I think back, I mean, right now it's still no cure. They don't really know how you actually get the disease, but sometimes they think it's environmental or whatever. But I really think in my mind, I go back to 40 years ago, and even before that, before even being clinically diagnosed, I just think, was it the foods I was eating? That's always a thought in the back of my mind. Like, did this happen because of foods? And I used to be a smoker. I smoked for 10 years. I smoked from 16 to 26. And I stopped cold turkey because that's when I was diagnosed. But it really often makes me think, what caused this? It had to be in something
It was
that
in your environment, your food, things
exactly,
you're eating,
Yeah.
and then
exactly.
you haven't corrected that, in a lot
Yeah,
of ways. Because if you look at some of the things you probably still eat out sometimes.
I do. Not all
Okay?
the time though. Not a
It
not a
doesn't. You
lot.
see, that's the thing. It doesn't matter whether or not
I
it's all the
guess.
time, because
Yeah.
if you keep refreshing the toxins, you keep getting
Ah,
the seed oils, you
I
keep
see
getting
what
the
you're
sugars,
saying.
you keep getting those additives. Guess
Okay.
what? You keep the problem. The problem keeps going. You never really get a chance to get away from it. And so it does
Wow.
require sometimes us stepping back from these things, and totally eliminating the problem, the root cause. And
Right.
obviously, the longer it persists, right, the more damage it does.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in that, Tyson. You kind of talked
That's
about it with
interesting. Yeah.
avocados, how you took a step back from them, eliminated
Right.
them from your diet for a period of time, and then reintroduced them, and everything was okay. My youngest daughter had a period where she had an issue with gluten, and as we kind of step back from that, it's not necessarily gluten; it's certain types and certain parts of processed wheat that she was having an issue with, and there were certain things, but only by eliminating it for a little while and then reintroducing things. Now she has no issue, right? After years of kind of figuring out the diet, part of it is the releasing and kind of stepping back and almost detoxing from some of these things,
Yeah.
which
Yeah, but
I don't think anybody says.
we have to also understand, even when it comes down to the wheat that they serve in America, the wheat that they serve is genetically modified. The wheat that they serve is void of all nutrients. And so, um, I, if there was something that was bothering me before and I stepped away from it, and that resolved, right, I wouldn't go back to it, because once again, you could just rebuild that issue and it can come right back. Especially if it's something that we know is not necessarily in its best form.
Are
You know,
you the go-to health guru for your Silver Fox squad
Right.
brothers?
I've helped quite a few of the guys I've
Do you
helped quite
keep
a few
them
of the
in
guys.
line? Do you
Yeah,
keep them in line health-wise for wellness?
I wouldn't say keep them in line. I mean, for me, I offer help when it's asked.
Okay.
I don't. Hey, if you don't want it, I won't say anything. But if you ask me, then yes, I have been quite successful at helping a few of them resolve some major and some minor issues.
Well, it definitely look. I was going to say it definitely looks like it. Somebody's following your advice.
And real quick, Titus, for someone who's living under a rock, could you just tell us a little bit about the Silverfox Squad and what you guys do and how it came about?
So the Silverfox Squad, how it came about, first the two original members were me and Irving, and
Okay.
we were kind of out there since 2016ish or something, and we realized that there was just an appreciation for guys over 50 who were, showing a different side of aging, showing that just because you were, 50 didn't mean that life was over. And as a matter of fact, we're actually showing that you can actually thrive and showing a better representation of what aging can be. And so we decided to, bring this group together. And, Irving's idea was, hey, why don't we form this group? And I was for it. So we were the first, I was the original member. He was the founder. He is the founder. And then we steadily added guys in. And the motto of the group is to impact and inspire. And the whole idea is we want to impact people in a positive way and inspire them to be their best selves. And not just guys, but anybody, even not just people over 50, because, if somebody's in their 20s, hopefully they'll be lucky enough to get to 50 to understand that it doesn't have to go downhill because, that's up to you, and I always tell people you don't get old, from the years you live. Get old when you don't have any dreams or aspirations. And you definitely get old when you allow your body to go in a particular direction. So if you keep your body up and keep your dreams high and fresh, aging is just a number, or age is just a number.
Amen to that.
Okay, I want the unlimited cheat sheet real quick. All right, as we're wrapping up the hour, a quick one for people, like what are oils they should eat or ones they should stay away from? What are sources of great nutrition that you think are undervalued or that people don't use enough? Like, give us some of your cheat sheet.
All right. So as far as oils we should eat, let me qualify that. We don't really need to be eating a whole bunch of oils. Let's start there. But if you're going to use oils, let's say you want to use oils to saute avocado, olive, coconut oil. Those are great oils, and or grass-fed butter. You can also use things like ghee. That's good, but ghee is harder to find. So, organic olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, grass-fed butter. That's what I would recommend. As far as nutritional density, right? I put up the 10 most nutritionally dense, or the 10 best foods, I would say, the other day. Avocado, berries, when it comes down to spices, garlic, onions, cinnamon, turmeric, ginger, citrus fruits like lemon, limes, grapefruit, oranges, wild caught salmon, not the farm raised, wild caught salmon, fermented foods, things like, just whatever fermented food you can find.
Like sauerkraut? Or
sauerkraut
pickles?
is good.
Okay.
Some people like kimchi, depending on where you're from, fermented foods, even Haitians have this thing called pickles, where they do it with the cabbage and what have you. And then grass-fed beefs and or pasture-raised, beef and other animals of that nature. Those are the things that are going to give you your most nutrients, clean and organic foods. That's what it is. And obviously adequate amounts of water. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I just wanted your cheat sheet. And so people can find your information and kind of get more in touch with you. You want to share your socials and the best
and
way
your
to do that?
supplements. I know you have supplements. I mean, let us know about that too.
Yeah, my supplement line, pretty much you can find everything you want that is Titus Unlimited under Titus Unlimited. You can just Google me and you will find my website. You will find all my socials, and you will also find all the articles and what have you about me. And you just go to Titus Unlimited, put it in Google, and it pops up.
Awesome.
And then when you go to my page, you actually see that I actually share a lot of information for free. I don't think in a lot of ways, price should be a barrier for people being able to have access to good health. So even booking a consultation with me is pretty affordable compared to a lot of people, and even working with me. And the reason why is, once again, I don't want someone's mom or sister or brother or son to not get the advice or information that they could have gotten because it was priced so high. So even if you tune into my lives, I give a lot of information away for free. All you have to do is listen. And a lot of people have been able to reverse their type 2 diabetes, their high blood pressure, their autoimmune diseases just by listening and following along, and maybe even just booking a consultation.
Right.
So, yeah.
I have to check out those lives.
Perfect. Perfect. That's what I was hoping for. I wanted you to tell people, because it's one thing to hear it, right? It's another thing when you start feeling it and you start transitioning your life and you
that's
start, you know,
Yeah.
and I learned a lot from you.
So did I.
You'll see the messages coming because I got some questions for you afterwards, but because I won't bore everybody else with it. But appreciate you so much. Bless you
Yes.
for all of the stuff that you're giving and putting out in the world.
Thank
Thank
you.
you guys so much, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for believing in us and having the time to share your expertise with the viewers and listeners. We really appreciate you.
All right, now, Lovesick. There you go.
All right.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks,
for joining
Titus
us.
Unlimited.
We're
Have
so,
a good one.
such an amazing research and the knowledge and the willingness and the open honesty. I think we don't talk enough in medicine about being holistic.
Yep.
And for our audience, you know, we talk about this all the time as a group and privately.
Great.
This was part of that little break
my
we took from
gosh,
season 1 to
yes.
season 2, is really saying we want to bring you the most compelling and information, and we want to provide resources to you. So we hope you're getting them, and we want to hear from you.
Right.
Please send us your
Yes.
thoughts. Send us the things that you want to know more about or the conversations you're looking for us to have, and join our conversation. Because we really
Absolutely.
appreciate you. Thanks for listening to Lovesick.
Thanks for
Yeah.
listening.
Thank you. See you next time.